This video is going to be another installation of One Play Wednesday. I haven't been able to produce this type of content for a couple of weeks because of time constraints. We're going to focus on Sione Vaki'S double tackle on a punt against the Houston Texans Sunday night, and the Lions come from behind 26-23 win. This play is drawing a lot of attention on social media, rightfully so. He essentially wards off a blocker and makes the tackle on the ball carrier, the punt returner, and the blocker at the same time. It kind of reminds me of when you're 13 or 14 years old and you live in a neighborhood and there's only like 10-year-old kids around. So you play football against them. That's what it looks like, especially when you see the end zone angle. He just looks bigger, faster, and stronger than the guys that are tasked with blocking him and trying to run the football against him on that play on the punt return. I also want to focus on a punt return that the Lions ran in that game. Unfortunately, there's a penalty. I believe it's on Nowaski on the snap, or maybe it's Neiman. I'm not sure, 51 or 53. And how the Lions are trying to run a wall punt return. I'm not sure that other people cover special teams content. I try to occasionally when I think it's warranted and when I recognize something that I have some familiarity with. So I feel like I can give you guys a little bit more appreciation about what went on that play. It's pretty easy to appreciate what Sione Vaki brings on special teams. He's a talented guy, very smart, tough, and savvy. This is not going to be the double tackle. This is going to be a punt in the first quarter. You're down 7-0 at this point. He's the left side slot, tasked with blocking just long enough such that the punter can get it off and then releasing. I think he's the force player in this concept. The gunners are just right to the ball. So what I mean is this gunner, the ball was kicked away from him since the punt returner's here. So this gunner's he doesn't have outside leverage. He's a gunner. Sione Vaki is the force player, and I love what he does in this area here. He recognizes where the ball was kicked and what his role is, force, keep the ball to the inside. And so he pushes the man assigned to block him just enough to create space for himself. Essentially, think like a receiver pushing off in preparation for the ball coming. And you'll get the end zone angle so you can see it. He's right here. It's kind of hard to see because it's the all-22 zoomed out. He just creates that space, and then the athleticism and the foot strength, ankle strength, flexion, to be able to put his left foot in the ground, bend back, and tackle Sims on a 17-yard return. Sims, if you don't know, had a punt return for a touchdown against the Ravens in last year's divisional playoff game. He's a very talented player. All right, so what I'm talking about, this is the same play, end zone angle. Watch what Vaki does in preparation for the ball possibly bouncing or just trying to create space for himself. Right here, the man assigned to block him, he's not waiting to engage that guy until he gets down here. There won't be space afforded to him, Vaki, to try to make the tackle if he does so. Very savvy, very smart. And look, the Texans are trying to do the same thing here. They're just trying to control the blocker, create space for a middle return. Up the middle, quick, taking advantage of Sims's athletic ability and burst. But Vaki's going to close down and get just enough of him, along with, I think, Zylstra, to prevent Sims from bursting through that lane. Here's the double tackle that everyone talked about on social media. I tried my hardest to find a picture that I could use for the front of One Play Wednesday. He's in the same location. Credit to the Texans for what they're doing. I think they recognize that he's difficult to block, so they're going to fold the edge defenders inside on each side, the right and left side, and then loop around to get a blocker a little bit better leverage. And they're doing the same thing to Vaki up top. You'll get a better idea of what I'm talking about from the end zone angle. Vaki accelerates from the negative 40 to the positive 40 and just leaves this guy. It doesn't look like the same player from a speed standpoint because Vaki is just able to easily beat him down the field. Doesn't have to push off to create space. And then the double tackle. Don't worry, you'll get a great view of it from the end zone angle. Really nice job by these two as well, the two gunners. Funneling him inside between the hash. Look at the compressed space and look at the leverage that these guys have. Think run defense, gaps. You want to have players in gaps that are responsible for them. You've got really an extra player, if not two, for the gaps that are here. Meaning you've got these two guys squeezing in, forcing the returner. Again, it's Sims inside the hash. And then Vaki overwhelms the blocker, decleats Sims, It's an amazing play. He's a really good football player. I think that you're looking at a guy who, if he were on another team, he could have an impact on offense at some point, whether it's this year, next year, whatever. He's going to have tremendous difficulty getting on the field when you have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. In the event of injury, however, you've got a really competent football player who's hard-nosed and physical, even though he doesn't have the acceleration of Jahmyr Gibbs, but who does? So they folded this with the edge defenders, they being the Texans. And then 23 has looped around to go get Vaki. 33 is looping around to go get, I think this is Craig Reynolds. I realize now I need to get another telestrator because the red on the red just doesn't work. So the punt is off. He doesn't have to create space for himself. He just runs by the guy for real. And look at the way that the coverage works with the gunners. Forcing and funneling. And then you have leverage side defenders for every gap. I think the force players are Vaki, and I think that's Nowaski, but I could be wrong. I think those are the force players that want to basically create a wall here and influence, encourage, or force the returner to go in between them. So we'll let this flow back multiple times. Hopefully that my video player doesn't make it like the screen stutter or anything for you guys. Could watch that over and over again. I'm sure you could too. Brilliant play. Extremely physical. Condensing, compressing the blocker now. And there's just nowhere for Sims to go. Tries to skirt out the right side. And you've got, it looks like a WWE guy clotheslining, two other wrestlers in the ring at the same time. And you're like, that would never happen. What just did. And it happened in the middle of a field that's 53 1/3 yards wide. So how could you possibly predict or say that would happen very often? It clearly does not from the standpoint of a double tackle. But Sione Vaki is a rookie playing really well on special teams. I think he has 5 special teams tackles this year, and I think all 5 of those have come since week 6. Could be wrong on that, but I know it's been recent impact. So we're moving to the third quarter. And this is going to be an attempt at a wall. One of the ways that we always felt like a wall was kind of predictable was where are you double teaming the gunner? So the double team in here and not up here. Now, this is not ubiquitous. This is not always true. But the extra player who would be doubling up to the top is located here doing nothing, right? He's just hanging out. That's not exactly true. They're trying to set up a wall. And his job is to take the ball to the wall. And we'll pause this and run it through multiple times. It's difficult to ascertain who certain guys are when you're this far away in terms of video, but look at the leverage they're trying to maintain. Outside leverage. This player, I believe, is Nowaski, who ends up with the penalty. It may not be Nowaski. He's going to fight a couple of times. He gets outside, he comes back inside, and at the end, he tries to get outside, blocks in the back. And perhaps I won't do justice here trying to maintain or describe to you why I believe this to be a wall. But one of the things it tells me, the indicators I see, is they were double teaming that gunner. For a moment, they're just trying to slow him up, help out the defender who stayed with him, and then peel someone back for a double team. In fact, they end up with 2 double teams at the point of attack. So look at the leverage that you've got here. This is Vaki fighting to not block in the back, and he's actually going to dig or work in this area here to seal off that defender so that Khalif Raymond can try to get to the wall. He actually does get to the wall. It's a big return, 20 yards, comes back for a hold. Delshon Phillips, a former Raven, is the guy who actually makes the tackle. Look at what you've got here. You've got what works into a double team. I think it's Zylstra. You will see the end zone angle. And I get it. Some people will say, well, Coach, I don't think this is a wall. I think you're seeing things that aren't there. But when you get the end zone angle and you see the leverage that these guys try to get to as the ball works its way downfield, then hopefully you'll be convinced. It was Neiman, I guess. My apologies. I kept saying Nowaski that ends up with the penalty. So Vaki fights. He's on the outside here. He actually jumps to the inside a little bit later and then comes back to the outside. My assertion is that everybody, once the ball is downfield, is trying to wall or funnel the defenders for the Texans on this side such that Raymond can get here. And I think their wall is pretty good. Overall. I don't mean necessarily on this one, but their wall is generally pretty good. These guys skipping sides, can kind of fool you at times, but look at what you've got here leverage-wise. Again, this is Vaki working on, I think, one of the inside linebackers. Reynolds working on someone with left to right leverage for us, outside leverage, outside in leverage. And then Raymond, unfortunately, in order to get to the outside, it is Neiman. Like I said, my apologies for saying it was Nowatzki. There was clearly a block in the back here. In order to get to the wall, you got a real nice look at it. I didn't even realize there was going to be this nice of a look at it here with the wall. And then this player here would be the guy. You actually miss him a little bit. He's off screen to the left, off the frame for you guys. His job is to exist outside the wall and make sure that no one interrupts the wall. Well, unfortunately for the Lions, a Texans player does fold and get to the inside of the wall from the other side of the field, limits Raymond to a 20-yard gain. Perhaps the explanation there is a little staccato and not as smooth as we would have liked. I do enjoy breaking down special teams footage. I don't enjoy the dynamic kickoff at all. Sorry for that. I know that there are others who enjoy it and would like to see breakdowns of it. I just don't find it dynamic or interesting at all so far. Maybe we'll see evolution or more strategic schemes being utilized as the season goes on that warrant some attention. I prefer punts and punt returns because I understand those, first of all. Number two, I see more variable punt return options, particularly with the Lions. They've got a wall, they've got a middle return. I haven't seen them try to execute a reverse or a fake reverse yet. That's available, especially if you start running a wall. It would be the player who was, quote, hanging out pre-snap about 15, 18 yards off the line of scrimmage, who's essentially trying to take the ball to the wall. In any case, this is my look at Sione Vaki'S double tackle with a little bit of a digression towards talking about other special teams concepts that popped up in the Texans game. If you would like to see more special teams content, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I think Sione Vaki right now is a top of the food chain special teams player, in my opinion, based on what I saw. I actually went back and watched like 6 kickoffs where he's playing well, but he wasn't necessarily involved in the play in the last 2 or 3 weeks. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comment section. If you think other Lions fans would appreciate or enjoy my commentary and then the plays that I use to try to illustrate how well Sione Vaki played on special teams, punt, and punt return against the Houston Texans Sunday night, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.